chances are you probably don't think too much about your olive oil or where it comes from. You just buy what you like at the grocery store and you use it when you're cooking. Well, it turns out that olive oil actually is something that you really do need to pay attention to. And today I am going to be talking with you about someone who really has the deep down scoop on olive oil and can share what we need to know and how to get the very best stuff. I'm Mira Dessy. I'm the ingredient guru. I'm the one who shares with you that it's not just what you eat, it's what's in what you eat and the quality of what you're eating that really matters. And my guest today is Tony Kasandrinos. Tony is a native of Rochester, New York, but he spent a good portion of his childhood in his father's village in Niada, Greece. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly.
Sounds
After
good.
that was good. Okay, good. After graduating from the Aquinas
Yep.
Institute, Tony joined the Marine Corps in 1997, hoorah, and retired from active duty in fall of 2019. Tony founded Kasandrinos International in 2012 after sharing the family olive oil with the members of the CrossFit gym he was training at. After a few months, he asked Effie to create a partnership to help bring the olives to the world. He currently resides in Santa Rosa Beach with his fiancée, Angela. In his free time, he loves traveling, being outdoors, and spending time around the table with family and friends. I can't think of anything better than that. His favorite way to eat olive oil is drenched over I'm going to ask you to pronounce that one, a Greek salad and lamb
Yep.
chops.
We
Hey,
call it a
Tony.
it's called a horiatiki, which means village salad.
Oh,
So it's your
yeah.
like traditional Greek salad, like tomatoes and cucumbers and a big block of feta cheese with some olives and olive oil.
Oh man, that sounds fabulous. And I just had
Yeah.
breakfast, but now I'm thinking I'm hungry again. Well, thank you so much for being here. First of all, I have to tell you, I love your olive oil. And people watching this may not know this, but at one point in time, I had a subscription box. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we had to shut down the facility, the warehouse, where we were doing all of the collection and packaging and fulfillment. But your olive oil went out in my box and it was unbelievably good. And I still get it. I still love it. And I'm really happy to be able to talk with you about olive oil. So one of the things that I did want to ask you first, though, is the olives that come from your orchard that
Yep.
you're working in, are they a particular kind of olive or are they a mix of olives?
Yeah, we use two olives, a Koroneki, which is the most common olive in southern Greece. It's a very high polyphenol, small little olive that makes amazing olive oil. Not the greatest tasting, but it makes great oil. And then we also use an Aletheia olive, which is actually only grown in our area. It's pretty rare olive that you won't find, and it just gives it a nice little aftertaste. So we use about 10% of that olive. So it's mainly Koroneki, but we definitely do use both olives.
That's great.
Most people would never notice it not seeing it. I mean, it looks like the same little olive.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's kind
Mhm.
of cool. Well, and I love that you talked about the taste because
Yeah.
at one point I was talking with my husband who, really was like, I don't understand what the big deal is. And I shared something that I had learned from you, which is that better quality olive oil actually has a little bit of a peppery bite to it.
Yep.
So I actually gave him a spoonful of the oil, and then after he swallowed it, he went, and I'm like, that's it. Can you explain
Yep.
what that's all about?
Yeah, I mean it's the higher polyphenol count, which gives it that bite at the end of it. Unfortunately, we'll get into it later, but most of the olive oil that's in America is not the freshest of oil. I mean, we bring over every harvest right away, and we only sell the current harvest to our customers. That makes a big difference because that bite that you taste when you try it over the course of time, 2, 3, 4 years, it'll go away. It
Mm.
starts degrading with time. There's a few other things that will cause olive oil to degrade, but a lot of times the olive oil you're getting in the stores, just due to the whole distribution process and the way it's actually created at the bottling facility, will give you a not so fresh oil.
Mm.
So you're really not, most people in America aren't accustomed to tasting really fresh olive oil. That's how it's supposed to taste. And in Greece or Italy or Spain, with the people who live there or any other olive oil producing nations, they're used to that, and they know what real fresh olive oil comes, what it tastes like. But unfortunately, here in the States, we don't always get that unless you're getting it direct from the
From
company
the
that's
source.
manufacturing it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and it's interesting because I know when I go to the grocery store, I'm always astonished to see all the different varieties of olive oil, many of which are in clear plastic
Yeah.
and quite frankly don't have that beautiful, rich, vivid color that
Mhm.
I've learned to associate with good quality olive oil. It's sort of this muddy yellow look.
Yeah. Yep. And unfortunately, with some companies, there's let me just back up. So in grocery stores, you have really good quality olive oils in some stores.
Mhm.
The only problem is they're really good quality when they were pressed,
Mm.
when they were fresh. A lot of times you'll find olive oil in a lot of grocery stores that's 2 or 3 years old. So the color it was the day it was pressed is not the color it is when you bring it home, and the taste isn't the same. So unfortunately, just due to the whole process, and a lot of these companies are based overseas, and they take a lot of pride in their product, but they're selling it in volume to these grocery stores or these distributors, and they kind of lose control over the quality after it. Now, as far as putting it in clear glass bottles or plastic, that's I think that speaks volumes about some companies and how you feel about your product, because at the end of the day, you should really care about what the customer is getting, not just what you're selling to a grocery store. And that's why we kind of have our last name on the bottle and take a lot of pride on what you're actually getting um, at your kitchen table, not
Mhm.
what a store is getting.
So in other words, one of the takeaways that I have from that is stockpiling olive oil is not necessarily a good idea.
No, not at all.
So how long would you reasonably be able to expect it to last if you were to buy, like, let's say you decide you wanted to have 2 or 3 bottles on hand?
Mhm. So it's edible for years. So it's not like it goes bad very quickly, but it does degrade.
Mm.
So what we recommend, we put a 2-year expiration date on our bottles of olive oil. It's definitely edible and still good after that, but we want people to only get this year's harvest, so they're tasting what it should taste like, and I'd
Yeah.
much rather have our customers only get one bottle every few months or every month. It varies on how many people are in your family and how much you
Yeah.
use of it. So there's really no good answer for that. It's all going to depend on personal usage. But our general rule of thumb is once you crack the bottle open, which we definitely recommend being in the current year's harvest,
Mhm.
after that, within 6 months.
Oh, good to
Yeah,
know.
because there's a few
Yeah.
different things that will degrade the olive oil. One is time. That's the biggest factor. But you have other inputs like light. That's why, sitting on a store shelf, they're exposed to that light pretty much 24/7.
Yeah.
That's why if you do buy it in a grocery store, it's best to get it from the back of the shelf instead of the one that's right up front,
Good
because that's the one
tip.
that's been under the light the whole time.
Yeah. Good tip.
But also from there, once you crack the seal, you also have air going into that bottle, so there's a few different factors. But as far as that clear glass bottle, I wouldn't even consider a bottle of olive oil that's not in a very dark glass,
Yeah.
or, but yeah, there's quite a few different factors, but 6 months I say is probably the limit once you open the bottle. So
Yeah.
however much you consume, that varies a lot.
Well, and I love that you talked about your favorite way to eat it is
Mhm.
on a salad,
Mhm.
or on lamb chops. And I think a lot of people tend to think of olive oil as a dressing, or sorry, as a cooking medium. They don't think of it as a dressing, as something to layer on top. Like one of my absolute favorite ways to eat it is on top of a fresh hummus. and then you pour like a good dollop of
Oh
olive
yeah.
oil on top of that, so that you're getting all of that oil and the lovely hummus flavor. And I
Oh
tend
yeah.
to have it on veggie chips, but um,
Yeah, there's really no limit to how you can eat it. Especially like if you do go over to the Mediterranean, where it's pretty much the foundation for every meal. I mean, there's
mhm.
really not much that's not made with it, from every meat to every vegetable to pretty much every dish that's, made in desserts. I mean, it's literally in everything.
I
So,
even have a recipe for an olive oil cranberry cake that I
oh
serve
yeah, yeah,
during the holidays.
nice.
And you need a really good quality olive oil for that cake because you really do want that flavor to balance with the cranberries and the other things that are in there.
Oh
So
yeah, no, definitely.
you can use olive oil in a dessert.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep,
Um,
tons.
so so one of the other questions that I had for you is when you're processing the olive oil and
Mhm.
bringing it over, so how long does it take to get from when the olives are ready until like we actually can get it here?
About 3 to 4 weeks.
That's it.
Yep,
Wow.
from the day it comes off a tree, which is going to be starting in about a week or two. Um,
Aha.
Whenever anybody's listening to this video, it kind of starts at the end of October every year,
Okay.
and we go until late February usually.
Wow.
So it's actually a long process. But we're actually, like I told you, we're going there in about a week, and we're going to be filming the whole process so our customers can actually see how it's done, from point A to all the way to your kitchen table. But to explain it really quickly, because it's actually a very simple, ancient process that's been expedited with machines as far as making the oil. And there's faster ways to do it also, but we don't do those because there's some ways you can harvest olives that's not so good. But the way we do it is we'll basically lay it. It's all hand done. We lay a tarp underneath a tree, and then we'll get like a group of us, generally like all the family members. It's an all hands on deck type of thing all winter. You handpick all the olives, and
Wow.
then it takes about, depending on how many people you have, about an hour to do a tree.
Wow.
Now that tree only makes about 4 to 5 liters of olive oil. So that's like our biggest package, our big can. It takes about one tree to make one of those. So
That's amazing.
yeah, so there's like
Wow.
actually a lot of work that goes into getting that bottle. Um, Now, conventional farming, they'll use tractors that drive over the trees and shake them and shake all the olives down. And that is faster and more efficient, but it also bruises the olives and is not good for the land, and it's not good for the tree. And how you treat the tree this year, kind of, that's how it's going to produce next year. So we actually prune the tree while we're harvesting the trees. So that doesn't happen in mass farming situations. But
Yeah.
once we actually get the olives into the tarp, it goes right to the mill. We basically have a non-stop train going, essentially, of okay, the olives are picked and they go right to the mill to be pressed into olive oil. Because what you don't want is the fruit, because it's a fruit.
Mhm.
You don't want it sitting around, for hours until it turns into olive oil. So once it goes down to the mill, it goes through a shaker and it gets rid of any maybe leaves or little branches that might be stuck in there. So then you get just olives, and then we wash the olives with water just to get off any dust. And then from there, it goes into, you hear the term pressed a lot, but we don't actually press olives anymore. They go into a giant vat, which is maybe the size of a big SUV, and it will churn the olives for about an hour, and it turns it into like a paste or a mash. From there, we separate the liquid from that. The actual pulp gets turned into little bricks, which we use to fuel homes with. So it's kind of like a little
Wow. So it's very
log.
eco-friendly.
Oh
This
yeah, the whole
isn't just
process. Yeah, even the leaves that we get rid of in the first phase, those turn into goat food.
oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
yeah, they feed them, or it'll turn it into a natural fertilizer. And then once you have the mash, you separate it. You have the pulp. We turn that into little bricks, and then the actual liquid you separate because it's a mixture of olive oil and water because the fruit retains some water inside. You separate the olive oil from the water, and then the olive oil we filter it once to get any pulp or sediment out of there, like a little bit amount that might be left over, and then from there you have your olive oil. So a very simple process. Back in the day, in the olden days, they would actually, instead of the whole churning process, they would use two big stones and basically have donkeys going in circles, and it would mash the fruit, and the liquid would come out. So the process has changed a little bit as far as just getting the oil out of the olive, but it really hasn't changed much. We just use a machine to do it now.
So it sounds also one of the things that I love about what you just shared is it's a very sustainable and eco-friendly process. Like you're
Mhm.
being mindful of the land, the trees, the environment.
Oh
And
yeah,
so
no,
I
definitely.
love that. How long does an olive tree live anyway? Like,
Hundreds or thousands of
oh
years.
my gosh,
Yeah, some of the oldest trees are dated well over a few thousand years old.
that's
And
amazing.
most of our trees, so all of our olive oil comes from one specific valley in Greece, in southern Greece. It's about an hour south of Sparta. Every tree in that entire valley is organic. That's pretty cool, and unique because we're not getting like chemicals from other farms nearby or whatnot. But and we actually have two mountains on each side of that valley, and then the sea on the third side of the valley. Um, and the olives themselves, most of our trees are hundreds of years old. Like
That's
they predate
beautiful.
my grandparents and great grandparents. And it's pretty much a co-op in that whole area. There's like three villages in that valley,
Uh-huh.
and everybody's got their farms, in the same vicinity. And then we have an organic olive mill, which presses we'll use the term press, but turns the olives into olive oil. And then we have a bottling facility as well that bottles the oil into the bottle that you have there now and puts a label on it and all that. And then we palletize it and bring it here to the States. But yeah, the whole process from A to Z. I mean, Greece is a very tiny country, like it's literally about the size of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And it's been around. I mean, there's been people there growing olives for literally
Millennium.
thousands of years.
Yeah.
So, we take a lot of pride in our area and the product that's coming from our area. So, I mean, we're all firm believers in our company and, the people over there that, how you treat the land is how it's going to treat you back, so the whole process of how we harvest the olives to how the trees are treated and what you're putting in the soil and in the water, it all matters for the finished product that you're getting.
And see, that's great. And that's such an important point because, I'm always talking to people about what's in what they eat or how their food is created. And there really is a huge difference if you start using pesticides and chemical fertilizers and other things like over time, that is going to degrade the quality of the product. So I
Oh yeah.
absolutely love that your olive oil is coming from trees
Mhm.
that have been in your family for generations and that
Mhm.
you're essentially still doing the same process without the benefit of modern chemistry. Like that's
Yeah.
great.
Well, I mean, it's just a never ending cycle of, you know, not a good thing when I mean, an olive is a very porous little fruit, so anything you spray on them is going to get soaked right in that fruit. And then when you press it, those chemicals aren't just disappearing, they're going right
Yeah.
into the oil. And then that's what people are consuming,
Yeah.
and they do it. Olives are very hardy trees. They've been around forever, and it takes a lot to destroy them. I mean, even if olive trees catch on fire, which happens a lot in Greece, we have fires, they will grow olives a few years later,
Wow.
unless they're burnt completely to the ground. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of fires in Greece, and those trees look lost. They'll be black this summer, but give it a few seasons, and they'll regenerate. So yeah, it's really important on how you're really treating those trees, especially, and it is, I think, different, especially like when you look at a tree over there and you could tell by the size of it, like, wow, that tree is hundreds of years old. I mean, it's that tree right there, what it's been through, and, all the civilizations that have gone on through the time of that tree's life. It kind of gives you like a different appreciation for it.
That's
You know.
amazing. That is. Well, yeah, and so I just wanted to show because mine just arrived in the mail. I just bought more. And I love this stuff. Like it's really, really delicious. You have a really fun tip for a neat way to share olive oil with people.
Um, Wait, which one was this? I've got
In,
a few
in,
ways.
instead of, oh, well, so I'd love to hear more, but my favorite actually is the one that you shared instead of a bottle of wine.
Oh, yeah. When you're going to dinner party, yeah, because we have the holiday season coming up.
Yeah.
No, we always encourage people, not to just do the same old thing. I love wine. Don't get me wrong. Like I really love wine. Um, but your typical traditional thing you do when you're going to a party during the holiday season, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, is to bring a bottle of wine. And we always tell people, bring a nice big bottle of olive oil. Like our largest bottle is actually, it's like our Magnum bottle. It's 1,000 milliliters, which is about a quarter the size bigger than your standard wine bottle. So, when you give someone, this bottle, first thing they always like look at it like, what bottle of wine is this? They're like, oh, it's olive oil. So it's something unique and different that you can definitely do during the holiday season.
Well,
Makes
the
a
other
great
thing that
gift.
I love about it is that, with wine, you're kind of guessing, do they like red? Do they like white? What do they like? Like
What
there's so many
kind of
different
red? Yeah.
varieties.
Yeah.
But with olive oil, you're going to give them something that's so delicious, they're going to be like, wow, that's amazing.
No,
So
definitely.
that's pretty cool. Do you have another tip for us about a great way to share olive oil?
Well, kind of, yeah, anytime is good. But one thing we always do tell all of our customers, like, or anybody we are there for to let them try it for the first time, is to try it next to whatever is currently in your kitchen. Like we're that confident in our oil that if you do a blind taste test between, put two in two little glasses and just take a tiny little sip of each, you'll notice a difference right away.
That's cool.
So we always encourage all of our customers. I think it's even in our like thank you email once they place an order, like, if this is your first time ordering our olive oil, definitely try it next to whatever you currently have.
Yeah, do a taste test. That's
Yep,
awesome.
always,
That's very
always.
cool. Well, Tony, thank you so much for joining us and sharing. I can't wait to see your videos. I'll definitely make sure to link to those so that people will be able to see them as well, because that just sounds really lovely. And folks, if you're someone who uses olive oil, which is something that I highly recommend you do, I'm going to encourage you to invest in yourself, your health, your family, and buy a good quality, high polyphenol, delicious olive oil. So thanks so much for joining us, Tony. It was great to chat with you.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.